live in a post-heated rivalry world, after all.
Let's be honest.
Little laps going to trash.
We're lesbians, remember, Cheryl?
We're the least interesting gays I have ever met.
The name was taken from the magazine Vogue.
And his fag hag.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I make video essays about pretty much nonsense that I'm really interested in. And yes, I have slightly dyed my hair ginger if you're not new here. And if you are new here, subscribe so you can see me before and after my next very subtle hair transformation. Along with my other wee video essays, this one is based on an article I wrote and published with the Gay Saint at the University of St Andrews. If you come across it online, I'm not plagiarising, it was just written by me at a different time. And I will link it down below if you still want to check it out, no worries if not. Today, I'm going to take you on a little journey through queer cinema history. I'm going to take you from the latter half of the 20th century through to today in the lens of queer film.
Will you marry me, Peter McAllister?
Yes, you know I will. Yes, put it on. Put it.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
If you've not watched the masterpiece that is Neighbours 2, or perhaps you've only seen its far inferior prequel, Neighbours, you may be entirely confused on how Now You See Me's favourite pickpocket could possibly become a queer icon, Rose Byrne's and Seth Rogen's 2016 follow-up to their original comedy. By the way, I've not seen Neighbours original, so how could I have watched a sequel for a film I've not yet watched, you may ask? Well, as with most films, also I've watched at least half of it over my twin sister's shoulder, who, with her precious soul mirroring that of a SoCal 2010s woke frat bro, thoroughly enjoyed Zac Efron's 11th attempt at escaping Troy Bolton's 5'7" shadow in Neighbours 2 Sorority Rising. While the film certainly does not primarily focus on the engagement and later wedding of Dave Franco and John Early's characters, their proposal and wedding bookend the movie, as the couple helped to provide purpose for Zac Efron's overgrown frat brother. Franco and Early are on screen together for probably a total of 3 scenes, but in each one they deliver a heartfelt and believable queer couple. And I'm quite certain they kiss more times than Tara and Willow do in the entirety of Buffy. If that's incorrect, I'm only like halfway through season 5, I think. I do mean to keep watching it, it's so dark, both physically and emotionally, and I want to be happy, and also I can't watch it in the summertime, it's too bright. Anyway, Dave Franco's performance as Pete makes me well up. So what if his portrayal of an ex-Psi Beta leader is one of my favourite examples of casual queer representation in modern media? Does it make me sound a bit dim? But like, seeing the antithesis of expected physical and aesthetic presentation of a gay man as engaged and joyful and so fucking proud makes my straight-passing lesbian heart beat faster. I mean, it would have been just as nice, if not more so, if an actual queer dude bro could have played the character. But who's turning down Dave Franco? And although I am 20, and in the grand scheme of things, a post-grad couple shouldn't be the gold standard of queer representation for my near future. But the irrefutable smile on my face as we see the flash of Dave Franco's engagement ring as he gesticulates wildly after Zac Efron breaks into his home might prove otherwise. I think I first watched Neighbours 2 a maximum of like 2 years ago, and somehow that was my first on-screen representation of a happy gay couple just casually in the background of something. I think it must be partly down to coming from such a small village in the middle of pretty much nowhere, with pretty much no visible local queer older couples or even really queer people my age. Also, obviously, due to the distinct lack of similar representation throughout media throughout time. This slightly melancholic spiral sent me down to my uni's library search page and both my personal and my sister's Criterion closet of queer films. And I would love to impart my queer cinematic knowledge on you if you so wish to stick around. No pressure, you can go. No, don't worry, I won't even mind.
I'm just a sweet transsexual.
Disclaimer, I am neither a film student nor a historian. I know very little overall, but had a really fun time researching and watching the movies. If I make a mistake, it was a mistake. Please correct me kindly, but I'm really bad at taking feedback. This is also obviously not an extensive history of queer cinema. I start pretty dang late in time in general. So I hope you enjoy shallow deep dive. All my researches will be at the end, of course. Okay, enjoy, and she's going to talk now. No, please listen to her, she'll be really nice, I promise. This lesseningly scarce genre of uncontested and concerned homosexuality has only been made possible by a sordid history of gay tragedy and trope exploitation beyond belief. One of the premier examples of canon queer representation in film is, of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975, based on the original sort of stage show. Although a vital foothold in the climb to representation and gay visibility on screen, Rocky Horror falls into an alternative and unfortunately deviant portrayal of queerness, ultimately reflecting a distant and negative representation of the queer people in the movie through the lens of a heteronormative society. Since sinking into a cult classic reserved for midnight showings, Rocky Horror has been the queer awakening and welcome into drag culture for many. These midnight showings, with hecklers ad-libbing across the cinema and drag artists lip-syncing along to the film, have created a subculture of their own, allowing many queer people to explore their gender expression as well as the culture and art of drag. One of the first films one thinks of when thinking of queer movies is Rocky Horror, but I can't help but believe that it helps cement the ostracism and distastefully alternative lens cast onto the queer community during the latter half of the 20th century. We all remember the time Glee did Rocky Horror. And for some, me, that was their first introduction to Rocky Horror as a concept. Before I knew I was gay, I was shown a prevalent piece of queer media as a disgusting and perverted musical, utterly inappropriate for high schoolers. Yes, Rocky Horror made a splash whose ripples continue on 50-odd years later, but when the piece is used as exposure for someone with contamination OCD, it can't help but feel a little twisted.
To do all that you intend to.
15 years later, the eye-opening pillar of queer BIPOC film was released, the monumental documentary Paris is Burning, a crucial piece of queer history, art, and documentation that took me far too long to actually sit down and watch. It's literally on YouTube and like 75 minutes long. I distinctly remember watching it in black and white, but I've linked a colour version down below. Go check it out. The documentary focuses on the ballroom culture of the late 1980s in New York City, showcasing these safe spaces for queer and especially trans youth, as well as the development of queer culture and language. I would also like to point out that obviously gay language originated from and in tandem with African American Vernacular English AAVE due to the majority of drag artists in Paris is Burning and in ballroom culture in general were people of colour and are still to this day. It is a heartfelt and personal piece that places the viewer within the folds of NYC's queer community at that time, when queer people believed they would never see themselves on screen, on the red carpet, at awards shows, rich or famous. The ballroom was their red carpet to celebrate safely. If you're not already crying while watching, the comments won't fail to remind you that a grand majority of the drag artists, queens, and queer people featured died in the following decades as victims of the HIV/AIDS crisis. This documentary is truly a part of queer media canon, and I'm so grateful that this specific moment in time and culture was captured so beautifully. Also, though, you don't need a white Scottish lesbian telling you that. Paris is Burning then created space and helped greenlight productions such as the next amazing film, To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, from 1995.
When a gay man has way too much fashion sense for one gender, he is a drag queen. Thank you.
The road trip dramedy focuses on 3 drag queens travelling across the country to the Drag Queen of America pageant in LA. The notable casting of Patrick Swayze as drag queen Vida Boheme stands out. I, for one, would never assume that a 90s heartthrob would have played a marginalised and pretty controversial character. Apparently cast for his dancer-like sway, which helped to cement the character's inherent femininity. Such a big name being tied to such a positive portrayal of queer culture and queer people felt like a leap forward in the mainstream celebration of drag. Swayze is accompanied by 2 macho powerhouses of the time, Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo. These 3 muscular men playing drag queens during the AIDS epidemic is just wonderfully insane, really. During the press tour for The Odyssey earlier this year, Leguizamo mentioned the impact that To Wong Foo has had on his life and his fans.
I love To Wong Foo. Such a brave movie. Priscilla Queen of the Desert Stole Our Thunder because it came out just before. There was only room back then for one drag queen movie. We didn't get the accolades that we deserved, I feel. I think Patrick did an amazing job, and Wesley and I crushed it too. And we took it seriously. And we really wanted to give these characters integrity, and we had drag queen coaches. LGBTQ plus teenagers came up to me a lot, said that movie gave them the courage to come out to their family. That's what you hope your work does. Gives people a sense that they're seen, that they're important, that their lives matter, That's what you hope that you do with your work.
Side note, as he mentions, I would talk about Priscilla Queen of the Desert, but I couldn't watch it. I couldn't find where to watch it. But also, To Wong Foo was the first Hollywood drag-focused film to be written by a gay man. So, although not a massive box office hit, remains a treasured indie of queer historic media and lives on in the hearts of many, including myself. A group of drag royalty being welcomed and looked after by a small Nebraskan town with conservative straight women couldn't be more beautiful. Furthermore, the inclusion of cameos from many famous drag queens at the time. RuPaul as Rachel Tensions. That's really funny. Lady Bunny, Miss Coco Peru really cemented it as a love letter to the drag community. Also, I am obsessed with, as everyone should be, Wesley Snipes iconic line read.
Little Latin boy in drag. Why are you crying?
Should have got a Golden Globe nomination, okay? I mean, Patrick Swayze did get a Golden Globe nomination, but he was snubbed. Now, I only watched this next cinematic masterpiece, released the year after To Wong Foo, this summer, but The Watermelon Woman by Cheryl Dunye had me laughing and pondering beyond every expectation I had held.
Tamara, why are you always constantly clacking women? We're lesbians, remember, Cheryl? We're into female-to-female attraction. Anyway, you're the one who's supposed to be clocking all the girls.
I mean, I've been meaning to watch this film for ages, probably years. Besides being a heartfelt, semi-educational and hilarious mockumentary, The Watermelon Woman was the first ever film to be directed by a lesbian black woman. Let me reinforce this film came out in 1996. My parents were 12, I mean that means very little to you, but Friends had been out for years. Smelly Cat had been listened to worldwide before we had a queer black woman directing a film. Are you kidding? That's crazy. And it's a wonderfully complex movie at that. A fictionalized Cheryl Dunye researches a fictional black actress from the 1930s, known as the Watermelon Woman, while navigating a relationship with a white woman, as well as both the subtle and overt microaggressions a sapphic person of colour was subjected to in the 90s, continuing till today.
Let's be honest.
Her best friend Tamara, a larger-bodied, hilarious stud, unfortunately falls out with Dunye about halfway through the film, but my god, her one-liners.
I do need a name tag if it's that easy.
Honey, if a dog collar didn't do it for you, a name tag won't either.
Some questioned why Dunye focused on a fictional black woman when there were many unnamed black actresses from the 30s in real life, but Laura L. Sullivan, in an article for the Johns Hopkins University Press, paraphrased Dunye. She had to create her own hope, inspiration and possibility through the creation of a history that was not, but could have been, and in some way should have been, there. She was the first black lesbian filmmaker, and within her film that cannot be either forgotten or ignored. And the way I was grinning through the 80-odd minutes of this film, the unabashed lesbianism, the complex questions and answers posed by Cheryl and those she interviews in her research, and the comedy throughout couldn't make me happier. And on top of that, both Cheryl and her love interest Diana were played by real lesbian women. Real life queer women made this film both in front of and behind the camera in 1996. Are we kidding? When was the last time you watched something sapphic or MLM even, and both the actors identified with their characters' sexualities? I mean, I know we can't be policing who plays queer characters. I don't want anything to happen like what happened to Kit Connor, obviously, but knowing that these lesbians made a hella lesbian movie warms my heart beyond understanding. When someone can portray us accurately because they are one of us, it means so much more, at least in my books. And I'm not asking every actor to come out, I'm not asking every actor to write down on their Wikipedia how they identify. That's not my issue. But if you're gonna play us, you either better be the fiercest ally around or queer. And you don't have to agree, it's just an opinion. Later in the film, the lesbian sex scene feels heartfelt and special, a clear and masterful opposition to the hypersexualized and fetishized woman-on-woman porn that cinema had only previously known. So often, lesbian sex is commodified and fetishized upon in cinema until now. Dunye thought of the concept as part of a black film history class and was barely 30 when the film, which was her first feature-length mind you, was released. She is a queer icon who deserves more respect on her name. I mean, she directed multiple episodes of Bridgerton Season 2 and a bunch of other shows today. Dunye's masterpiece left a hole in my heart, yearning for more lesbian movies, and I can't help but think her masterpiece led the way for this next one.
I'm not perverted. I get good grades. I go to church. I'm a cheerleader.
The sapphic classic But I'm a Cheerleader from 1999 rounded out the 90s with camp, satire, the brightest coloured story of all time, and of course a straight RuPaul cameo. 2 RuPaul cameos. Hello. My lesbian ass has watched that film 3 or 4 times over the past 3 years, and it has never failed to fill my heart with pure queer joy. Seeing literal queer art like that moved something within me, knowing that little femme lesbians like me in 1999 could see themselves in a true heartfelt comedy makes me so happy. This millennium masterpiece was director Jamie Babbitt's first full-length feature. These movie-making lesbians start with bangers. I mean, the Queen had worked on a Martin Scorsese film straight out of college, but the visuals, writing, design, and characters hold up over 25 years later as classic queer art and essential viewing for any feminine lesbian or compat warrior. Babbitt executes a colourful and intensely layered tribute to her inspirations, two of which were John Waters and Barbie, both queer icons in different senses. Babbitt marries the pair in an artificial and brightly coloured set, pulled into sharp focus by its heteronormative blue-pink split and plastic clothing. It's also a tight 92 minutes, and has queer people both in front of and behind the camera. And also, before we head back to the future, I just want to point out that Paris is Burning, But I'm a Cheerleader, obviously, and The Watermelon Woman were all directed by lesbians. It feels pretty awesome that three of queer culture's biggest cult hits are made by lesbians.
You queer baiting me?
Queer bait.
No, what is the spectrum of your language? No. Hey, Samir, tell this guy I sleep with men.
The 2000s through to the 2010s brought us, for better or for worse, the unforgettable Glee, the poorly remembered Love, Simon, and many other pieces of cinema that brought doomed queer suffering and bury your gays tropes into the modern day. I like the less than subtle homoeroticism of Pitch Perfect and the two lesbian side characters in New Girl as much as the next gay guy. Nope. But with so few publicly queer actors and creators involved in these projects, they fell flat over and over again for the sensibility of Gen Z's queer and queer-adjacent audiences. Ryan Murphy is a criminal to the arts before he is a gay man. Thankfully, last spring, 2025, introduced the world to two incredibly queer shows: Benito Skinner's semi-autobiographical series Overcompensating and the hilariously queer ensemble comedy Adult. Both shows portray queer people as fully, painfully realised humans. Benito Skinner, my fellow OCD king, leads us through Benny's first semester of college as he struggles with his burgeoning sexuality, leading to relentless crushes on straight people in his classes. We've all been there, do not lie, as well as fighting his way through fraternity hazing. The show really truly captures the reality and insane amount of cringe that starting university holds, in a way that makes you shiver, and I couldn't be more grateful. The title, taken from Skinner's stand-up show, based on his adolescent and college experiences, captures the need to perform as straight when in the closet, overdoing every social interaction to the nth degree, or even just feeling the pressure to perform as some specific stereotype of gay. The exploration of queer identity and coming into your sexuality in a world in which it feels too scary to do so speaks to pretty much every queer person watching. Even if Overcompensating exists in some 2016-esque but pre-Trump of course but no one's really sure era. And I could wax lyrical all frickin' day about Benito Skinner and Mary Beth Brown, who plays Benny's older sister in the show. But this video cannot become an Overcompensating fan review when Adults is right there. A true modern-day Friends. The sitcom chronicles the lives of 5 Taint of Queens residents through threesomes, evil twink ex-husbands, and the classically awkward trope of my gay roommate had to visa Thord marry my fluid boyfriend, but they don't actually like each other. No, I think it—
You're not gonna get cooties. Kiss. Fine. Okay.
Kiss! For real! Kiss, 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 kiss.
So yeah, this is one messy household, but with only one straight roommate and only one white male actor. Who thought it could be possible? I mean, there's no black woman, because they're missing seemingly from all of TV, very unfortunately and scarily. But, you know, these 5 characters live equally in Toronto's NYC as they do in my heart. Not once is any queerness questioned, and heck, even Sabers can be chill gay guys. Its diverse cast, with both straight and queer actors portraying queer people, makes a TV show that reflects our generation positively and accurately. The future of queer representation could be so bright, especially with Adult Season 2 coming out at the end of this month and Overcompensating second season in post-production. More and more queer self-represented stories like them are being made, produced, written, released and celebrated. Seeing shows and films focusing on queer people, but not being consumed by coming out narratives. Although I do, obviously, Overcompensating is partly coming out narrative, but Benito talks about this in a podcast I watched.
By the end, I was kind of creeping out of the closet, and that's been fun for season 2 to think about what that looks like, because I think maybe we've only had it in like movies before where it feels a little bit quicker, and this we got to really explore backslide of it, like coming out a little bit and then being like, no.
But there is now a rising legion of queer creatives behind and in front of the camera. It casts a vision of a future in queer film that really couldn't be brighter. We live in a post-heated rivalry world, after all. In the original article, I lament the lack of sapphic media taken on by the mainstream. But since its publication in late February, British and Sapphic season has begun filming, and Hayley Kyoko's Girls Like Girls feature-length made over $2 million at the box office, despite its very limited release in the United States. We do, however, have to rebel against both the constant centering of white queers and an overall portrayal that tends to lean pretty token and pretty cringe when stoking the flames of this queer film blaze. I'm proud of us, truly. We've come a very, very long way, but we have so much further to go. XOXO, Rebecca.